You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad and writer who has been living in my 1997 Ford van since January 1st of 2019. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hey guys, I just want to pop in here real quick before we dive into the super inspiring, awesome, and laid-back interview with this week's guest, Brooke Weeber, and remind you of one thing and share another thing. So as a reminder, this podcast is totally ad-free and completely audience-supported. So if you want to support the show and continue to keep it free of all of those annoying ads, you can do that via Venmo or PayPal. And I have a brand new option if you want to see more of the behind the scenes of my life and my creations. And that is on Patreon. And that is just www.patreon.com/HollyCPriestley. I will link to it in the show notes. And then I also want to share with you guys that I am finally going to be launching an organic social media growth course that I have been working on for the past few months. And that will be shared with you via the Patreon as well. And because it's on Patreon, as with all of my other Patreon providings, it is a choose your own price situation, and every tier gets access to all the same materials. That course is going to be officially starting on May 1st, so in just a couple of weeks here. And I'm going to be sharing more about it on my Instagram. I have a few videos available on my YouTube as well. So just follow me around, tune in, and I hope to see you on the Patreon for that course. And without further ado, here is this week's guest. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living Podcast. I am your host, Holly Priestley, and this week's guest is Brooke Weeber. She is an illustrator, photographer, all-around creative, badass lady living in her van with her dog, Huxley, who is also super fucking cute. And Brooke and Huxley have been in their current van since July of 2020. And about a year before that, they had bought a Eurovan and were living out of that, and then decided it was just too small and they needed to upgrade. And so I'm really excited to have Brooke on the show this week because she's just doing things her way and doing it a little differently and making up her own rules and doing all these wonderful things that we should all be doing. So, hello, Brooke.
Hi.
For the audience who doesn't know you, hasn't gotten the chance to camp with you, doesn't currently follow you on social media, why don't you give us a little bit of background about who you are and how you got here?
Okay, wow, that's a big question. Yeah, I'm from Oregon and I grew up there, and I was born in Washington. I spent some time living in New York City after college. I went to college for art, so I graduated with a degree in oil painting, and then I decided to switch and go to culinary school, and that took me to New York City, where I lived for 4 years. I know I've lived like 3 different lives in my lifetime, so then I moved back to the Pacific Northwest, and I've been living in Portland for 11 years now, not including my time in the van. I was working as a cake decorator for a little while before I started to just branch out and do illustration on my own and open up an Etsy shop and start selling prints and cards online. And that's pretty much what I've been doing ever since. So I would say the last 8 years, maybe. I moved into my van after I decided to sell my house in Portland because I was just overwhelmed by paying a mortgage and having all the bills and also being freelance. It was just a little too much for me. So I sold my house, and that was kind of how I was able to afford to build out the van that I currently live in. When I sold my house, I went debt-free, and that was like one of the most amazing feelings of my life. And I've felt very liberated and free ever since then, just traveling around in my van with my dog.
I think that's incredible. I love that your life has taken so many different like pivots.
Yeah.
You've had so many different lives. I mean, that's kind of how I refer to my life too. Is like, oh yeah, those few years when I was doing this thing in this place, or when I had like that job. Like I've already had multiple careers, right? And I'm
Yeah.
31. Um,
Yeah.
I think that I think that that's really refreshing and really relatable because so many people, like when we're growing up, we're taught you have to follow this path and then you work for somebody or you work for one business or you work in one industry and you just like, take your passion or your interests or your skills and you make a career out of it. And like ultimately,
Yeah.
it sounds like everything you've done has been really like creative and artistic and right brained,
Mhm.
but it's taken so many different forms from, oil painting in college to culinary and cake decorating and,
Yeah.
illustration, photography. And I really like that. I find that to be very
Yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah. I think that we should not be taught that we have to make these like huge choices about the direction our life is supposed to go in when we're so young. And
Yeah.
we should just be encouraged to follow whatever path we decide to take at any given moment. And also just be told that you can change your mind at any point and you're never too old to try something new and go in a different direction.
Yeah. Never too old, never too young. The timing is always right.
Yes,
So if you feel like
exactly.
you're behind, the timing is right. And if you feel like you're too early, the timing is right. Like if it feels
Yes.
you, then that's what you should be doing. Um,
I, yeah, when I was in culinary school, I became sort of infatuated with Julia Child um, because she started her career so late at the age of 35. And then she made this huge, name out of herself. So it was just always a good reminder to me that it's never too late to start something over or start something new or whatever you want to do.
I was watching a podcast the other day of a woman who is about my age in her early 30s, and she said something about like, on my Instagram, like I only follow accounts of women influencers who are over 50. I'm like, that's my rule. I only use Instagram to follow women over 50. And I was like, that's really brilliant because like we're not like she's in her early 30s. So she said that by following women who are over 50 on Instagram of all places, she sees
Yeah.
that there are so many different like aspects of life and different depths of life and different ways to do life and that you're never too old, never too young, like
Yeah.
that's just a really refreshing way. Like I don't if I thought about all the people I follow on Instagram, I mean there are definitely some who are women over 50, but it is not the vast
Yeah.
majority. And maybe I need to change who I follow to pursue that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah. I don't think you see that as much with the influencers who have a lot of followers. They tend to be on the younger side. But there are people out there of all ages doing this lifestyle. You just aren't exposed to it.
yeah. And I think that like being exposed to the lifestyle in the first place, any kind of like alternative lifestyle is really important. And that's why I have the show is to share all the different ways people actually live life because, I'm in the thick of, living on the road and living in the van. I've been doing it a long time. And even before I moved into the van, I followed a lot of people who did because I knew it was something that I wanted to do. But so
Mhm.
to me, it's like this big community. Everybody knows about it. Like it's just normal. And then I still meet people like in the real world who are like, wait, you live in a van? And they have no idea. And that always reminds me, like, oh, yeah, like this kind of exposure, like this kind of representation in all forms, in all mediums matters.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. Because I do feel like being out here, I see and I meet people of all ages. So to me, it just feels like um, this lifestyle attracts people across the gamut. But people who are outside of this probably don't see that. And they think, oh, well, van lifers are all young people, young, attractive people with perfect vans that are like really expensive, and it makes the lifestyle seem really unattainable.
Yeah. When you first moved into your Euro van, how did you find out about that as an option for you?
About moving into the van.
Yeah. Like at what point were you like, I could move into a van? Did you see somebody else doing it, or were you just like, I should do this because I love, camping or being on the road? Or, you said you didn't want to have any debt, you didn't want to have your mortgage, and moving into the van gave you that kind of financial freedom. What was kind of the cab? I mean, I guess living in Portland, you probably saw people living in vans. It's kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's pretty common in Oregon. I mean, when I first got the Eurovan, I still had my house, and I really bought it just for weekend adventures or road trips, and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do with it. But when I did finally come to the conclusion that I wanted to sell the house, I was really happy that I already had the van to do it in. I didn't really have to do a lot of work to get ready to transition into that lifestyle. But yeah, I had the van and the house, and then I went to one of those van gatherings, Descend on Bend. Yeah, and I was like, these are my people, and I really felt I felt really welcome amongst that community, and also I really felt like a kinship with these people and their passions, and their love for living life to its fullest, or all the different things. And I was like, okay, so I was exposed in that way, and then of course Instagram helped too, and just getting to know other people in that community and having people to talk to, and then when I did finally move into the van and meeting more people and just having more exposure, all of that kind of helped me with my transition. So
Yeah. What did your family and friends from your before life think about you selling your house and moving into your Eurovan?
yeah. I would say my parents were a little unsure of that decision. I mean, I don't think they were so conflicted about me selling my house so much. They were supportive of that, but moving into the van, my mom was definitely very worried, and I think my dad kind of likes to live a little bit vicariously through me, so he was a little bit more excited about the possibility. But my mom was and continues to be extremely nervous about my safety. So, but she's always really happy that I'm having a good time. So, my friends, I think, were pretty supportive. I have, I'm from Portland. Like, what can I say? My friends are like unconventional. I don't have a lot of like cookie cutter type of friends who live a traditional lifestyle. Most of my friends don't have kids. People aren't married. It's just like, it's very normal. And I also have a very adventurous set of friends. So people are just really excited about me being able to spend a lot of time outside and doing the things that I love, like hiking and running and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I didn't receive a ton of pushback. So I'm really lucky, I think, because I'm sure a lot of people do.
yeah, yeah. But I think that that's really, really cool. And like the people that you surround yourself with can definitely like make or break your experience. And so it sounds like you had a really good experience meeting other people on the road before you were on the road, and then after you were full time on the road. But then you also had this built in support group. So you didn't necessarily have to like fight with like your friends and like try to defend your decisions. And everyone was like, all right, cool, whatever. Like that's the least you could do.
Yeah, I did not really have to justify myself at all. So I got lucky.
Yeah. I feel like we shouldn't have to justify ourselves, but sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What were the first like 2 weeks like in your Eurovan? Full time.
Well, I can tell you specifically so before I moved into the van, I went on 2-week road trip by myself. And this was kind of like an experiment to see what it was like. And it was really hard for me. In fact, I was like, not sure if this was the life for me, because I got really lonely. It had been a while since I'd been that alone for a long stretch of time. When I was 35, I did the Oregon section of the Pacific Crest Trail. Mm-hmm. And so that was like my first experience of being really alone for like 30 days in a row. But I met a lot of people. And so I had some time, not completely alone. But when I went on this 2-week road trip, I really missed my friends. I had a hard time finding camping. It was a little harder back then, I think, than it is now to find camping, because there were fewer apps and fewer just recommendations. And I was really shy. I wasn't really meeting anyone. And so I really struggled with it. I don't know how I went from there to like deciding to actually move into the van. And it was a huge transition. Even once I moved into the van, I was just like really nervous. I was learning a lot of new things. I didn't feel like there was some kind of like roadmap, if you will, for like how to move into a van or what to expect really at that time. And so, I was learning a lot of things and crying a lot and adjusting. And like I said before, the Eurovan was a little too small for me. So I was experiencing frustration with where to put things and how to manage my space, because that's something that you really have to learn when you move into a van. How to keep things tidy and where everything is supposed to go. With the Eurovan, it was a little more challenging because of the pop top. That was something that I thought seemed really cool, but ultimately I really hated it. I hated the fact that I had to like put it up every time I went somewhere, and then I had to I had to transform my van into like different types of living spaces in order for it to be a fully functioning place for me to work and sleep, etc. So if at any point I had to like get up and leave in a hurry, I had to pull the top down and lock it shut and put the bed, just do all the things that took time. And I don't know, that was just kind of frustrating for me. So it was challenging. It was definitely challenging. I would assume that it's challenging for everyone at first, even though it's exciting. It's you're learning a lot, and you're learning how to lead a completely different lifestyle from what you were living before.
Yeah, I think if the frustration is balanced with the excitement, you're gonna like power through it and it's gonna be fine. But I think if it's frustration and not also exciting, I think that can be really, really, really challenging. And sometimes it does mean you have to change things. You have to get a bigger van. You have to get some other kind of situation. And it makes a lot of sense. I feel like I want to know how your life has changed now, but it seems like the biggest thing that has changed is that you got yourself a taller van that you don't have to transform, that you can, as long as like your pots and pans are put away, you can drive pretty immediately.
Right.
How has the loneliness factor and those other things that you can't necessarily buy a van to fix, how have you addressed those in the last year and a half?
I think that I've just grown more comfortable or confident in spending time with myself. Strangely enough, I feel like just the fact that we've gone through all of this isolation this year because of the pandemic, that it's sort of helped me adjust in a way that probably a lot of people have been feeling, even people who don't live in vans. You're just getting used to spending a lot more time alone and being comfortable doing that. It has been really nice when I am able to visit with people and meet new people which hasn't been happening as much, I guess, with the pandemic too. I think people have been a little bit more closed off than they were before, which is totally understandable. But yeah, I've gotten a lot better about it and just feel more comfortable spending time alone and being with myself and my dog. And when I do get lonely, I'm a lot better about reaching out to people and not feeling like I'm some kind of burden on them because I need, human interaction. So yeah, I've been spending just more time connecting with friends, just, through FaceTime or whatever than I would have done before. I think the pandemic has helped a lot with that. Like, okay, we're all on Zoom now, so this is normal. We're used to it. We can keep doing this. So
yeah, absolutely. I relate very hard with that. Sometimes when I start feeling lonely, I isolate myself more because I don't want to be a burden on somebody else, because like, oh, well, their lives are so busy and I don't want to like distract them from their lives. I don't want to force them to talk to me or hang out with me. And it's like, like,
yeah,
it's just like a mean trick that our brains play on us. It's not factual in any way. And, friends, I've kind of started doing the same thing over the last few years. Is like, if I'm feeling lonely and I'm feeling isolated, I will make the effort to like send more text messages or like Marco Polos or like, video call my people, or even like write postcards if I'm in an area where like I don't have service and I can't actually talk to people.
Yeah.
Like things like that help me feel more connected. Even if I'm all by myself with my dog and I don't have anybody else around. And I think that we spend so much time trying not to be lonely. And I don't necessarily think that loneliness in and of itself is a bad feeling, right? Because getting comfortable being with yourself, getting comfortable with your own company is critical to living a good life. But sometimes it takes global pandemics or living in a van to like make us realize that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's pushed us in a new direction. I mean, I don't think that, I still miss like actual human interaction and hugs and all of that. And we'll have that back. But I think it's good that we've also introduced this different way of communicating with each other and grown more comfortable with it. So hopefully that we will keep using it in the future, especially for people who live remotely like us. We kind of need it,
Yeah. Yeah. When I first moved into the van, I took it upon myself to like reach out more and to try and connect more and to try and like send more letters and, do things like that, because I felt like, well, I'm the one who's choosing to leave. So I need to make the effort to maintain my friendships. And I don't necessarily think that's like a wrong way to think about it. But over the years, it's like, well, it takes two. So I'm not going to continue to put effort into relationships that, aren't thriving on both sides. And I have some friends who, we communicate very well remotely. We text all the time, we call all the time, whatever. And then I have some friends who are very like, must be face to face in order to connect, because we just have different personalities. And, some people need that like face to face action, and that's fine too, because now that I'm in the van, like I see some people less, right? Like my friends who I lived in the same city, I lived in Denver. I see my Denver friends probably less, but I see my family more. I see my friends who don't live in Denver more because I can travel to them rather than it being like a year event, And so like there's definite like pros and cons specifically to like friendships and relationships with being on the road.
Yeah, I agree. I think relationships are always changing as we get older too. So this is just kind of the natural process of life. And we grow out of some friendships and some friendships grow stronger. And sometimes that has to do with proximity and sometimes that has to do with like our changing personalities. So yeah, it's good to just go with the flow.
Completely agree. And sometimes it's hard because we just want to control everything and hold on really hard to the things that we think we can control, but it's all an illusion and we can't control shit.
Absolutely. Good reminder.
What do you think are some of the biggest other pros and cons to life on the road? What have you experienced?
Oh my gosh, where do I begin? Well, there's so many obvious pros to living on the road. I feel like this is that's the stuff that you see on Instagram, right? Like beautiful views, long walks in the desert, seeing new places, meeting new people, having freedom, financial freedom and physical freedom, minimalism, requiring less things. I mean, there's so many benefits to living in the van. But there are cons as well. And I would say for me, the hardest, I don't know. The cons, they don't seem that bad. When you put them all together, they do, but like they're usually spread out, so it doesn't feel that bad. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't do this, right? I mean, if the cons were terrible, we would move back into apartments and live in cities and stuff. But yeah, definitely the isolation can be challenging at times. It's kind of weird to spend so much time with yourself. You really get to know yourself. Like from sunrise to sunset, it's just you and your dog, if you have one, and you're full of thoughts. You're interacting with people maybe online. Maybe you're texting a little here and there, but for the most part, it's just you, and you're doing what you want to do. You're following your passions, your desires. It really has become, I don't want to call it a selfish lifestyle, but it has become all about you. So I don't know if that's a pro or a con, honestly. I think it can be good.
I think it can be good. I feel like the word selfish, the concept of being selfish gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
Especially like among women, right? Because we're supposed to be like polite and caring and, be nice and all of that.
And we're children and
yeah, I think that like if you do start living life for yourself, you're actually like serving humanity better, in my opinion, because you're not being a shell of a person. You're being a whole person, a whole like filled out, fleshed out person doing what you want to do. And I think that, not only are you happier and therefore, a rising tide lifts all ships, but I think that, anybody who's watching you, whether it's, your friends or a complete stranger on the internet who you have no idea is watching you, like you living your most like selfish, authentic, deliberate lifestyle, like has so many benefits and so many positive ramifications that can come from it. So yeah, I think selfish is good. Be selfish.
Okay. We'll go with that. Yeah, I think with the cons, a lot of times it's more like just adjustments that need to be made in order to live this lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Like you have to adjust your personal hygiene or your expectations of your personal hygiene. If you love to take a lot of showers, maybe this lifestyle isn't for you. I basically rarely shower. I have a toilet in my van that I have to empty. I have to deal with my own actual shit. And I don't have a mirror. I don't know what I look like most of the time. I wear the same clothes all the time. I only do laundry once every 2 weeks. So I'm kind of a dirtbag. And I mean, for me, that's fine. But for someone else, it might be kind of a huge adjustment to transition into something like this. And it might not work for everyone,
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, one of the best things about living in a van is that it can be so customizable to what you need and what you want. And, like my van is built specifically for my needs and my personality and all of that. But I don't have a need for a toilet. I don't have a need for a shower. I don't have a need, and it's annoying. Like my hair is gross. It's gross right now. If it's raining outside, I still have to go outside and dig a hole to take a shit. That's kind of annoying. But you can build your rig and your lifestyle around your preferences and your lifestyle. Although I do agree that if you enjoy taking like a shower every day or multiple showers a day, it's probably not for you because you just can't carry that much water.
Yeah. And of course, budget comes into play as well. Budget and space issues come into play. Yeah. If you don't have a huge budget for like a nice composting toilet or a nice shower, or you don't have the space for it, then you're going to have to figure that out. Like, what's the most important thing for you and what's going to make this lifestyle work for you? Because, there aren't a lot of vans that can fit an actual shower in them.
No. And if you're, if you're prioritizing a van, then you have to like lower your priorities in other aspects, right? Like, Logan and I both have a lot of toys. And so the way we like store our toys on our vans is totally different. But, if you're going to have a shower in your van, you might not have as much space for climbing gear, an inflatable supboard, backpacking gear, like things take up space and your space is limited. And so you get to come face to face with your priorities as a person.
Yeah.
And, I think it's really cool that you went from the Eurovan, which is, kind of iconic and very cute and everybody loves it. And then you were like, this isn't practical for me at all. I'm getting a transit and I'm getting a high roof and I'm building it the way I want it. And then, still, even with your build being so customized and so like perfect for you, there's still things about it, that don't quite work. Like, I know you still sit in your camp chair, even though you have benches and a table, and your camp chair is still the most comfortable thing you have. Like, it's just priority, and nothing's ever going to be perfect.
You make the decisions as best as you can while you're working through the build and you're in the design process, but you will never know exactly what's going to work until you live in it. And I think that's why people often end up building multiple vans. You have your first one and then you decide what didn't work in that one, and then you build a new one, and so on and so forth. I don't think that's probably going to be me, but I guess in a way I kind of did that because I started with the Eurovan and decided that didn't work for me. So, I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's a tiny space, and you just have to make it work as best as you can.
But even like, it's never going to be perfect because it's a tiny space, but also like if you had all of the money in the world and you could go build your perfect house on your perfect plot of land and make it as big as you want or as small as you want and design it to your heart's content, like you'd still find things that you would have done differently. Like I did real estate for a few years before I moved into the van, and I would go, have a meeting with a seller, and they would tour me through their house, that they built themselves and everything is so special. And they'd still, even though they built this thing themselves to their own preferences with all of the money in the world, they'd still be like, yeah, but next time we would do this thing. Like there's always going to be things that you're going to do differently. So if you're looking for perfect, fuck off. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, we're constantly evolving as well. So, and our tastes are changing. So what you thought was really important one year might not be important the next year. So
yeah. Yes. Totally. I could go down so many rabbit holes on that one from personal experience. You've talked times so far about, finding that financial freedom of moving onto the road, working freelance, being your own boss, trying to make it all work, and, the budget and all of that. Do you want to dive in a little bit into the finances of living on the road and how you make it work for you and the logistics of money and road life?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm pretty lucky because I sold my house and I was able to make some money off of it. And so I do have a little bit of a nest egg that I can pull from when things are hard. And they have been hard in the last year. When the pandemic hit, I lost a lot of work, especially with my illustration business, because I sell greeting cards and a lot of the shops closed, either closed permanently, like closed forever, sadly, or closed for many, many months. And so that still hasn't picked up. That side of my business hasn't picked up again, which is really sad. I don't know if it will. I don't know how to predict what's going to happen in the next, few months, but I hope that it gets better. Normally speaking, I do, I make a decent amount, I guess, with that. I have a friend who mails all of my orders out back in Portland. So I just design new cards and new prints, and then I have them printed and sent to her house, and she deals with all of that, which is really nice. And And then I do some brand ambassadorship on Instagram. So I do make content for brands, but that dried up a lot in the last year as well. So it's been, I actually got my taxes done and I made below the poverty line last year. So that was great news. But, you know, I think we're all going through that right now. A lot of people at least are going through that right now. And I'm just hoping for a better year where I can actually like start saving money again instead of pulling from my savings. Yeah, I don't have any advice about how to like make a living on the road because I don't think I do particularly well on that front. But, you know, for me, it's about I just go with the flow. I've always just gone with the flow and just followed whatever desires or passions that, you know, inspire me at the time. And so, you know, that's why I started a blog, is because it just seemed like the direction I wanted to go in. And that's why I'm, you know, painting weird animals because it's just something I felt like doing. So I don't have like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan or anything like that. I just I have ideas that I like to run with, and then I just see if that sticks and if it works and if it makes me money. And if it doesn't, then I try again. Yeah.
I mean, you aren't giving yourself enough credit with, you know, the whole, I don't know how to give advice or tell people what to do because I'm not doing it particularly well, but it sounds like you're doing it particularly well. I mean, it's like doing your taxes and making below the poverty line, like, holla, been there, done that, do that. But also, like,
I mean, that's, you know, that's why it's nice that we live in an inexpensive lifestyle.
Right. Like, you have the freedom to explore your interests more than if you had a house and you had the burden of a mortgage or rent. And so, you know, I think sometimes, in my personal experience, I'm not going to, you know, extrapolate on yours, but in my personal experience, some of the years that I've made the least amount of money last year give me a lot of freedom to be like, well, I'm not making money anyway. I might as well explore this new thing that I want to do. Like, you know, podcast, like, I didn't get into the podcast to make money, although it would be nice because I spend a lot of hours on it every week. But it does open up, you know, new avenues, whether you're expecting them or not. Like, it does open up, you know, new opportunities. And so, you know, the gift shops closed down and your gift cards aren't being sold that way. I mean, you still have your Etsy that you don't talk about enough, but you still have that.
Yes.
And I'm sure that work will show back up, but it'll be in a new way and it'll be in a new creative way. And I think that having the ability to be like flexible and to go with the flow, and, you know, like, we do live pretty inexpensive lifestyles on average. I think that can be really freeing, and it seems like you're doing a kick-ass job.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of embrace this kind of lifestyle because it keeps things more interesting and more exciting. Just kind of like living in the van. Every day is a new day. Like, what's this day going to bring me? There's no routine. You don't have to, you know, get up, go to work, blah, 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 do the thing, you know, do the 9 to 5. It's really freeing to wake up and write my own to-do list and decide what it is I'm going to do that day. And it's just a real privilege not to have to constantly focus on the money and think about, like, how much am I bringing in because I have this, that, and the other bill. I have very few bills. It's really nice. Just mostly, like, you know, car insurance and health insurance and phone. So, yeah, I feel really lucky that I can start every day kind of new and decide what this day is going to bring me. Am I going to work all day, or am I going to go on a hike, or, you know, am I going to drive to a new camping location and still be able to, like, scrape by? You know, I'm not getting rich over here, but that obviously is not of concern to me because otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So this is not a get rich quick plan.
No. But it is a live with abundance and have a wealth of experiences and a wealth of, new adventures. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I find that much more fulfilling.
Yeah. You said you don't have like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, but do you look to the future at all with your van plans? Like, do you know what the next 6 months are going to bring you, where you're going to go, or if you have, I mean, you don't have plans to buy a new van and build out a new van, so that's good.
No, no. Mostly I'm planning, I know for sure that I will be going back to Portland in May because I have to switch out winter gear for summer gear. And I'm hoping to get vaccinated at that point back in Oregon, and then just visit with my parents for a couple weeks. And then, I don't know, I have this like itch to do the Colorado Trail this summer, but I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can commit. It's a big commitment, obviously, but I would really like to do another long trail. And the Colorado Trail is on the top of my list. So if that's the case, then I will spend a month of my summer, or a little over a month of my summer in Colorado doing that.
That would be great. If you do that, I will pick you up in Durango.
Yes. You could join me for part of the trail.
I will join you for part of the trail. It would be great.
That would be awesome.
What advice would you give to you of 2 or 3 years ago?
Oh my God. Well, so much advice. Basically, chill. I mean, I could probably still handle that advice now.
Preach.
Yeah, but I mean, especially during the build process, boy, that was such a challenge. I was just overwhelmed, like beyond overwhelmed. I would lay in that empty like shell of a van and cry my eyes out because something had gone wrong, or I was too tired, or I didn't understand the electrical issues or whatever. I mean, there were a million setbacks and problems and issues, and it was probably the most trying thing that I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
I would tell myself that everything's going to be okay. You're going to make it through, and it's going to be totally worth all of the hardships in the end. And I mean, I could give myself that advice for everything.
Give that advice day.
Yes, like everything's gonna be fine. Like that's it. It's all gonna be okay. You're gonna make it through, and it's gonna be worth it. And you're gonna learn a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that's the kind of advice that only really comes with age and experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 20-year-old you couldn't have been like, it's fine, it'll all work out. Like you'd be like, oh my God, no, I need to know what's going on, and I need to, like, by the time I'm 30, like I need to have these things done. And then, once you get to be in your 30s and 40s, it's like, oh no, you're fine, chill out.
Yeah, there is literally no timeline on our lives. Even though we are raised to believe that we're supposed to accomplish this, that, and the other by certain ages, it's all bullshit. And we just have to follow the path that's set before us instead of trying to accomplish, certain things by a certain age. It's futile, it just is pointless because everyone is on their own journey, and yeah, just fuck society's standards for your life and just do what you want to do and follow your dreams. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that.
I think that's perfect advice, and I think that's a good little mic drop to end that.
Perfect.
If people wanted to come follow your van journey, maybe see your adorable dog, check out those really excellent illustrations that you have, how can people come find you online?
I'm on Instagram, and that's pretty much it. My illustration handle is at @little_canoe. And my photography handle is at Brooke, BROOKE _Weeber, WEE. BER. And my dog's account is at Huxley the Explorer. Oh, and I have a blog too. It's called artandexploration.com.
Nice.
And it's new, so it's in its baby stages.
It's in its baby stages, but it's really well designed and super beautiful, and I'm excited to
Thank
see
you.
it. So, and I'll link.
Yes, I'm more. What was that?
I'm going to link to all of those in the show notes as well, so people can.
Perfect.
That way. Thank you, Brooke, so much for being a part of the Deliberate Living show. And as always, thank you to everybody who's listening, watching, reading, however it is you consume the show. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, 5 stars. You know the drill. Share it with anybody that you think needs to hear it. Maybe somebody who's feeling a little lost in life and needs a change, or just needs a little kick-ass, like, calm the fuck down, everything's going to be fine. If you like it, go ahead and do that. And if you want to help keep the show ad-free, I do have a Venmo and a PayPal set up. Those are linked in the show notes as well. And tune in next week for another awesome episode. Go give Brooke a follow. Maybe get yourself some greeting cards or some gift cards for upcoming holidays and birthdays. Support a local artist near you or on the road. We love it. And
thank you.
Tune in next week. Bye.
Bye.
We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.